Hello there, good evening. It's Monday the 16th of June. Welcome to the First Look North of the week. As the government announces a national inquiry into the sexual exploitation of children, we hear from those who live through it and what they want.
The amount of information you could gather from looking at Bradford and Keighley, you would be able to then, it would absolutely blow Rotherham out of the water.
A decade on from the Rotherham scandal, we look at how lessons from the town might inform the national inquiry. Also tonight, helping the Roma community to health. Life expectancy is currently 10 years below average.
For Halifax, 7 years after their last triumph in this competition.
Emotion in motion. The Halifax Panthers grab the Wheelchair Rugby League Cup. And we're treasure hunting in Bradford as the Antiques Roadshow rocks up at Cartwright Hall.
And temperatures on the rise this week, but just how hot will it get? I'll have more details for you towards the end of the programme.
Hello there, I hope you had a lovely weekend. Welcome to the programme. Tonight, the Home Secretary has promised to tackle the sexual abuse and exploitation of children and put perpetrators behind bars. Speaking in the House of Commons, Yvette Cooper announced the findings of a new report into grooming gangs across England and Wales. The report says there was a collective failure to address questions about the ethnicity of grooming gangs. Even though more research is needed, the report says there was disproportionality of group-based child sexual exploitation offending by men of Asian ethnicity. Now, the report recommends new laws to protect children and support victims, new major police operations and research, a new national inquiry to direct local investigations and hold institutions to account, new action across children's services to identify those at risk. Earlier this year, the government did dismiss calls for a national inquiry on the basis that the issue had already been examined in 2022. Well, now the National Crime Agency will lead an operation to help police forces reopen 800 historic cases, aiming to bring long-awaited justice to victims. Our correspondent Emma Glasby has been getting reaction from survivors in Yorkshire and asking if it's enough.
Rotherham, where the scale of child sexual grooming and abuse was exposed 11 years ago. Elizabeth was exploited in this town from the age of 14. Her abuser was finally brought to justice when the National Crime Agency investigated her case. Now it's been announced the NCA will oversee a national operation by police to target grooming gangs.
I believe if my journey weren't with the National Crime Agency, then I probably wouldn't have got justice.
So maybe it'll make that difference for other victims as well?
Absolutely, yeah. But I still think that we can't keep relying on the National Crime Agency to be mopping up a mess that the police forces have put in themselves. Because one day, the National Crime Agency might not have capacity to do this, and then what?
Today in the Commons, the government announced the details of a review into grooming gangs by Baroness Casey. The Home Secretary said in future, ethnicity details must be gathered in all child sexual abuse cases.
Baroness Casey's audit examined local-level data in 3 police force areas, Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, where high-profile cases involving Pakistani heritage men have long been investigated and reported, and there they found the suspects of group-based child sexual offences were disproportionately likely to be Asian men.
In Bradford, Fiona has long called for more investigation into the abuse of children in her city. She was abused and exploited when she was living in a children's home. Today, the government said a national inquiry would direct local investigations, and Fiona says Bradford must be part of that.
Every single grooming case I've heard of all had links to Bradford. They all got abused by people from Bradford or got trafficked to Bradford. The amount of information you could gather from looking at Bradford and Keighley, it would absolutely blow Rotherham out of the water. And I think this is what they're scared of, and this is why they won't do it. But if they did, it'd be so beneficial for the bigger picture.
But we don't yet have details of where any local inquiries will be. A solicitor who represents victims in Yorkshire says accountability matters to the survivors of this abuse, and that's what they need from any local investigations.
I'm convinced that a good independent reviewer, having access to the documentation and to the staff in Bradford Council, would get to the heart of it, yes.
Do you feel like that's what's been missing, accountability for those people who were in positions of power and knew what was happening at the time?
Yeah, it was missing from Rotherham. The council there, even after Professor Jay's report, allowed these individuals to retire without being disciplined, even though they were aware that they had made mistakes, to put it politely.
The government claims this is the strongest action ever taken on child sexual exploitation, but it will need resources for inquiries, for police and the courts. Survivors will no doubt be watching, hoping that others won't be failed like they were. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North.
Well, keeping with this, earlier I spoke to Sarah Champion, the Labour MP for Rotherham. Now, she was initially against a public inquiry, but her viewpoint has now changed.
Well, I think for me, the last thing I wanted was to spend taxpayers' money on yet another report that just sat in a drawer. But quite quickly, it became apparent to me that the public have lost trust with the statutory agencies because over years, over decades, we've seen people be failed when they're trying to report grooming gangs. And we need a line drawn under this once and for all. And that's why quite quickly I decided, the only way that we can do this is by a national inquiry that's got statutory powers to compel people to tell the truth once and for all.
So, Champion, we know that local forces are stretched, local authorities are stretched. There's the issues of county lines, online abuse of children. Will all that go by the wayside for this?
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? We've got a very reduced police budget. So what do you prioritise? I mean, I would argue that prioritising protecting children has to be way up there. And so the thing that I'm most excited about from the announcement today is the fact that the National Crime Agency are going to be involved. In Rotherham, we've had the absolute privilege of working with them for the last, I think, 7 years. And they've led on all of the past grooming gang cases with a huge success rate. So the fact that they're going to be tasked and resourced.
Sorry, Sarah, I just need to interject there. They have been involved with Rotherham. We've had the Alexis J report. We've had the Dame Casey. We've had the Dame Baroness Casey report. So, what exactly is this going to achieve for places like Rotherham?
Well, one of the things that I hope is rather than seeing all these cases in isolation, the National Crime Agency can see the bigger picture. Because I don't know about you, you've been covering this for years and years as well. And we keep on seeing the exact same pattern of behaviour happening without anyone joining the dots and thinking that it might be organised or connected in some way. So having that national oversight, I really hope will enable us to disrupt and break this pattern of behaviour.
We are still waiting for clarification on what the local investigations will be. Do we know if any of them will be in Yorkshire? MP Robbie Moore has made it very clear he's disappointed that Bradford and Keighley haven't been mentioned yet.
I don't think it's helpful for the government to specify a couple of places where the investigations are going to go on. What we need to see is that every single police force and local authority is held to account to make sure that they are fit, ready and active in preventing this particular crime. There is no area that will be able to say that they haven't got some form of grooming gangs going on. They might not be gangs of Pakistani heritage, but there will be some form of this abuse happening. So
is it still happening in Rotherham, Sarah Champion?
I would say that the online process is definitely still happening. But as a police chief a couple of years ago said, you'd be pretty stupid in Rotherham to do this particular type of grooming. So I can't say that it's stopped, but I will definitely say the number of victims and survivors coming to me because they're not getting justice has dropped dramatically.
And do you think there are people working in the local authority in Rotherham that are still turning a blind eye to this?
I mean, I would be appalled if that's proved to be the case. What we've seen in Rotherham in the last 10 years is a complete change of staff, a complete change of leadership, a complete change of practice. So if there is a rotten apple in there that is still preventing justice, I want to know who they are and I want them gone. And worse than that, if they're actually in some way preventing justice being done, they need to be dealt with accordingly.
Sarah Champion, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
OK, let's move away from this now and look at some other stories coming into the newsroom.